Alright guys, in today's video we have some more PlayStation 5 news and info to go over and talk about. The first thing we're going to be highlighting is a pretty significant report that has to do with Sony apparently trying to buy out multiple studios, or at least a company that owns most of these studios, which would then mean Sony acquires these studios. And so not a lot of people have been talking about this, but it is pretty significant, so we're going to be highlighting that. We're also talking about the secret San Diego studio, apparently, that we've known about for a little while now, but they are rumored to be working on a continuation of Uncharted in some way. Either way, we do know they are working on a big cinematic AAA game, but we have more evidence here of that, as they recently just hired a former Naughty Dog artist that has worked on many of the Uncharted games and The Last of Us and stuff like that. So yeah, really interesting stuff there. And finally, we're just talking about a patent. I'm a little bit late to this one, but I still find it extremely interesting. That points to a picture-in-picture option with the PlayStation 5. So you can kind of think of the snap feature that the Xbox One originally had, where you could like watch stuff like Netflix or Hulu or whatever while you were also playing your game, and it would just show up in the corner. It seems like Sony's going to have something like that available for the launch of the PS5, which is pretty cool. So this is what we're going to be going over and talking about in today's video. If you could do me a big favor before we go any further, make sure you hit the like button to help the video out and show your support. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future content, and make sure you hit the bell notification icon so you can be notified immediately anytime I upload a new video. Starting here though with this report that Sony is trying to acquire multiple studios. It says here, Sony Corporation is eyeing a bid for Liu Technologies, the Hong Kong-based holding firm that houses Warframe developer Digital Extremes, according to a report from Bloomberg. Interestingly, Splash Damage, the creator of Brink, is listed as one of the company's subsidiaries and has a major stake in Certain Affinity, a support studio. Sony isn't the only company considering a bid, however, with Chinese outfit iDream Sky also in the running, having been in discussions with Liu for a while now. Apparently, these discussions were happening before everything kind of went on in the world that happened, and they're going to be picking up again in July. Goes on to say here, Sony is hoping that it can edge out other bidders with greater certainty of financing. Liu's controlling shareholder Charles Yuck aims to choose a buyer and sign an agreement as soon as this month. This is what Bloomberg is reporting. Talks are still ongoing and no final decision has been made. Other bidders could still emerge. So what's really interesting about this, well, there's a couple things. The first is obviously the amount of studios and what these studios are known for. Now, I'm not 100% familiar with all of these studios, but one thing I do seem to understand about most of them, looking at Digital Extremes with Warframe, we have Splash Damage, they did Gears Tactics, and as it said, Brink, and we also have Certain Affinity in the mix here, and I believe they're known for multiplayer projects as well. So as you can see, these are studios that seem to really focus or be known to develop multiplayer-based games, and this could be a big reason why Sony is trying to acquire them. I think it's going to go for about $1 billion or 1.3 billion, something along those lines. So it's definitely a pretty significant purchase, and it seems like it is something that Sony is really pursuing here. And so we know that Sony has kind of went on record letting us know that they do want to try to expand their multiplayer portfolio. Something that I've seen some people mention is how it was a little bit strange that during the PlayStation 5 reveal event, seemingly none of the major exclusive games we saw were multiplayer, or there was just like no focus on multiplayer whatsoever, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because Sony's just kind of playing to their strengths. They're known for their single player experiences, but we know that they want to expand and they want to start doing more with multiplayer, and there is a certain amount of people who would like to see that as well. I'm included in that. I love single player, but I also love multiplayer, so I certainly would like to see them do more. And if they were to acquire these studios, I mean, we don't know exactly what their plans would be, but you have to assume, considering the pedigree of these studios, they would want to pursue more multiplayer live service games. And I know, again, there's a lot of people who are against that, especially the whole live service thing, but you have to understand that Sony is not you know, if they were to pursue more multiplayer games or even live service games, that's not going to come at the expense of single player games. I mean, you wouldn't buy up a bunch of multiplayer studios or studios that are known for multiplayer titles and then say you're now going to work on single player games. It just doesn't work like that. The same reason why Sony, you know, they bought Insomniac Games, and they didn't say to them, okay, now you're going to make the biggest and best multiplayer game that was ever made. No, you're going to continue Spider-Man, you're going to do Ratchet and Clank and some other stuff. And so, yeah, this is really interesting. We're going to be paying close attention to this. The other interesting aspect before moving on to the next topic here about Sony trying to acquire these studios is that apparently this is going to happen this month. So if Sony does actually lock this in, we're going to know, I'm assuming we'll know about it before the end of the month or by the end of the month. And so it's going to be really interesting to pay attention to this. Even, again, this doesn't come off as the biggest thing in the world, but this is pretty significant. There's a lot of studios here, especially the studio that works on Warframe. Like, I think they've proven that they're really good at making live service games. As far as I know anyway, I'm not a big fan of Warframe, but they've proven that they know what they're doing in this space. And so maybe that would be a great asset for Sony and a really good way to just kind of suddenly bolster their first party lineup of studios that could potentially work on future multiplayer titles. So there you go, guys. Some pretty big news there. We're moving on and talking about this secret San Diego studio and how they hired a former Naughty Dog artist. Sony's visual arts development studio, the Secret San Diego team, believed to be working on a new Uncharted entry, recently attracted new talent. Apparently, the recruit is Zach Oliver, a former environment artist for Naughty Dog who worked on the studio's last 4 projects, including The Last of Us Part 2. According to Oliver's newly updated LinkedIn page, he left Naughty Dog in June and soon thereafter joined the San Diego team in question as a senior environment artist. Oliver's hiring seems to add more fuel to the rumors that suggest that San Diego studio is hard at work on another Uncharted project. While there exists no undeniable proof that Uncharted counts as the team's first game, there's plenty to suggest it will serve as another narrative-focused adventure for Sony's catalog. This most notably holds true given a job listing from late 2018, wherein Sony sought out a lead character artist in San Diego for the, quote, next chapter of cinematic storytelling, unquote. So, yeah, let me read this last section here too, because it says, word about a not-so-secretive studio first began making the rounds in April of 2018. This information also entered public consciousness thanks to a job listing posted by the publisher. At the time, it was merely known that Sony was in search of a gameplay engineer for a team created alongside the Visual Arts Service Group. In particular, the Visual Arts Service Group specialty is in animation and motion capture. The crew has most notably taken part in the production of exclusives like Death Stranding, God of War, and Uncharted. So just wanted to give you all that back information there so you know that there is actually a significant amount of evidence out here that clearly points to this secret San Diego studio. I don't know if I'm sure there's like a name for this studio, or they're going to have a better name than Sony's visual arts development team or whatever. We'll probably learn about the name of the studio. I'm just assuming whenever this game gets announced, and we probably won't hear about this game for another year or two, because it sounds like whatever it is, they're building the team from the ground up and they're taking their time to make sure they hire the right people. And if it is a continuation of Uncharted in some way, shape, or form, then obviously Sony's going to give them the time they need to make sure they get it right, because it's a huge IP for them. But it might not be Uncharted. It could be a brand new IP, it could be something. But one thing we do know for sure, based off of these job listings and clearly the people that they're hiring onto this team, is this is a big AAA game and the future of cinematic storytelling, and it will be a PS5 game, which is incredibly exciting. So yeah, I have a feeling that this is going to be a big future announcement. Again, I wouldn't expect it anytime soon, maybe sometime in 2021, if not certainly sometime in 2022, but I will continue to keep you guys updated on the studio, because it's going to be really interesting to see what they end up announcing. But to finish this video off, we're talking about the recent discovery of a patent that points to picture-in-picture options. It says you may be able to start up multiple screens with the PlayStation 5, allowing you to play a game while watching a streamer or potentially even follow a YouTube guide. A new patent published by Sony Interactive Entertainment reveals a concept whereby overlays could be placed on top of gameplay. or alternatively off to the side. In the diagrams, the Japanese giant demonstrates how you may want to layer a small video feed over your main screen. Other examples include showing a stream offset to the left with comments published beneath it. This could tie into the PlayStation Assistant rumor, which has been swirling for a while, which points to some kind of Alexa-style aid being incorporated into the PS5's user interface. Sony's not said much about its next-gen operating system just yet, other than it's going to be lightning fast and a complete overhaul of the concepts introduced in the PlayStation 4 with all new features. So obviously this is stuff that if it's going to make its way into the final UI and it's going to be like a main feature, which frankly I think this is an awesome feature. I always, as somebody who, bought the Xbox One day one of the coolest features about it, and something I always really liked, was the snap feature. The idea that I could have something else on the side, whether it be like a football game or something, or like it says a streamer or a guide of some sort. I always thought that was really awesome, and I always thought it was a big, a real shame and a big letdown that Microsoft just decided one day that they were going to remove that feature. It seemed completely unnecessary to do that. Because I think that there was a lot of people who really liked it. So, this is something that apparently Sony is thinking about doing, and I hope this does make its way into the PlayStation 5 as a finalized feature, because I would love to see it. I just think it's awesome, and I just think it makes a lot of sense to have something like this, considering there's a lot of people who like the idea of being able to multitask, I guess you could say, when it comes to consuming content. So yeah, at this point, I want to know what you guys think about all of this information that we went over and talked about in today's video, so be sure to leave your thoughts down below. Again, leave the video a like if you did enjoy it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.